welcome to the first edition of the Opening Key Podcast with me, your host, Jason Roslin. And it's a new style of podcast. And, of course, every podcast has to have their opening song or intro or what have you. And what I want to do here on this podcast, my podcast, the Opening Key Podcast, part of the Awesome Old Golf product, I'm going to give you a song that I like or that I've listened to quite a bit in the past that has something to do maybe with the previous winner here. And of course, if you guys are seeing the side of my face, which sometimes some people say is the good side of my face, sometimes they say it's the bad. Who knows? It's because this is what I'm doing for my podcasting format. It's really for the consumption is for podcasting format, but of course, if you like YouTube or that's where you do all of your consuming of your content, of course, we're going to put it up there. So use that. Of course, as you guys most know, I'm in transition of moving, and I'll have some posters up there soon. But of course, if you were listening to my intro there, you heard the wonderful Sebastian from The Little Mermaid, and that's obviously reminiscent of Sebastian Munoz finally getting it done. Quite impressive, if you ask me. Got it done on all facets of his game. So it wasn't just one that he was dominating on. It was all facets that he played well on here. So just now getting up my notes here from last week, and here's exactly the format of what's going to be going on this podcast. So what it's going to do is it's going to be a two-part podcast. This first one here is going to be released sometime on Sunday night right now. It's about 10 o'clock on Sunday night, not too late here. I expect to have it out a little earlier than that, but if nothing else for your drive to work on Monday mornings, what I'm attempting to do here, because I know there's a bunch of very good and quality golf podcasts out there, trying to create a product that is a little different, at least, has a little bit of a different touch to it, and prepares you for the week. That's my goal here, and that's obviously we've seen all of these great content come out and how this industry has been able to flourish from it. So I decided I'd finally jump in the fray, and for now I'll be doing it solo dolo, but don't you worry. If you're interested in joining the podcast, I'm going to have plenty of opportunities for that. And of course, when football is done, I'm going to get my guy Ben Raza on here as well, my cohort here at the golf product at Osmo. So without further ado, part of what I'm going to do here in this first one is going to be called the foursome of facts from last week, where I'm going to give you just four facts that I liked, four positive facts, I'll say. Then we're going to go wayward off the tape. Just a couple of facts or statistical notes from last week that looked really odd. And then I'm going to bring in a segment called the Not Your Average Missed Cut segment. So we see plenty of times throughout the year, a big player missed the cut or a good player missed the cut, and he may not have missed it that much, or may not have missed it by one or two, or there was one statistical thing that was keeping this person from making the cut. We're going to try and identify some of those players through this. And then, of course, we're going to give you the flip side of that, of golfers that had only one good statistical category, but nothing else. And then finish it off with a little bit of a course preview, a little bit of a field preview. And then something new that I'm going to try is I'm going to give you the top 5 priced golfers on DraftKings way before they came out, right? Normally they come out around 2 o'clock on Monday. Well, I'm going to try and price in the week. Now, of course, remember, I'm not always right here. I don't expect to be right, but it'll be fun exercise to go see. And then what I'm going to go do is I'm going to, in the second half of the podcast called Hitting 3 Off the Tee Podcast, which most people, you guys can try and figure out what that means. Obviously, it's just going to be reviewing those prices that I came up with there, seeing how right or wrong I was. Going to go over some of the field changes that might have happened over the last 24 hours. Like, for example, last week, Ches Reavie ended up dropping out of the field, and he was actually one of the highlighters. So we'll go over those. We'll go over the Monday qualifiers. We'll go over the sponsor exemptions, all of that stuff, which has seen plenty of winners, including Nate Lashley, come from last year. So we'll go over that segment. And then we'll break down some of the opening bets and such. So, without further ado, we'll break right into it this week with my foursome of facts. First off, we're going to talk about Sebastian Munoz for just a minute here. His improbable path. And this guy, I was just reading an article earlier today from the PGA Tour. And this guy came from a rubber tree plant farm in Colombia. His family owns it. Went to North Texas, where he was if you watched the telecast, where he was teammates with Carlos Ortiz. And so Munoz comes from Colombia, goes to North Texas, had to battle for a spot. Then all of a sudden won on the Corn Ferry Tour, got promoted, had a decent year last year, and obviously the breakthrough this week. So very impressive there. Dominic Pozzelli. Also, one more note on Munoz. Also, if you didn't watch, he had to nail a 14-putt birdie putt just on 18 to tie Sung Jae Im, and obviously that gave him some momentum going into the playoff that he ended up winning. Dominic Pozzelli, he's the second guy. He seems to be a poor man's Jordan Spieth, getting almost 8 strokes putting this week while pretty much losing everywhere else except for off the tee. Good enough for a 6th-place finish, so something to watch out for. Certainly, if his irons heat up just a little bit, definitely could be somebody to watch out for. Something I say about next one of the Force One Facts is Dylan Fratelli, one of the guys that Ben and I talked about quite a bit on our show. He was able to dust off the rust after round 1. He shot an even par 72 and then came out of nowhere. Gained over 7 strokes over the weekend, so obviously still in some pretty good form. Next, we'll talk about Sung Jae. Obviously, disappointing to come in second there and lose in the playoff, but he gained strokes in all facets of his game. And we talked about how good of a putter he's been recently. When you do that, he's going to have a chance to win every single time. So wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't drop out of the field this week. Obviously, it's going to go over to Asia in a couple of weeks here. And maybe he'll take the next couple of weeks off because he said he does not want to play more than 5 weeks in a row. So it'll be interesting to see. But was very good with his wedges last week. So could have a bunch of opportunities again this week if he puts the ball in the fairway. So definitely something interesting to watch out for. That'll cover our foursome facts of the week. Those are the most important facts that I would say of golfers that played really well that I thought were interesting of note and could be of note to you going in the future. Of course, I'm sure I missed some. Again, this is not supposed to be an hour-long podcast. This is supposed to give you a quick recap. Let's say you weren't able to watch it. Let's say you got caught up watching the NFL and just weren't watching golf much, but you want to stay on top of things. It's a great way to do it. So, wayward off the tee. Next segment here, Cameron Smith. He lost 2 strokes off the tee. So again, this may not necessarily be, hey, these are guys that were terrible off the tee. These are just what I try to couple in with golf for my second title here, wayward off the tee. Again, Cameron Smith was the first one I wanted to talk about. He lost 2.5 strokes off the tee in a week where there just didn't seem to be doing that much. It tends to happen with him from time to time. And then again, he also actually lost 1.2 strokes putting. So his approaches were very good. He was very good around the green. Ended up missing the cut. And next note of the wayward off the tee, of golfers that made the cut, only Rafa Campos lost more strokes on average per round with his putter than Emiliano Grillo did. And I tweeted out early on Thursday, maybe it seemed like he figured out how to putt. He had made like 4 or 5 inside 10 feet in a row, but that was about all he'd make all week as he shot 5 under on day 1 and finished the tournament at 7. So pretty dreadful there. So here's the next segment that I talked about at the top of the show, the not your average missed cut. And this is a good one here. The not your average missed cut. Like I said, there's been plenty of times, and I can count at least 5 to 10 off the top of my head, where a guy that I played week before missed a cut, came back, bounced back the next week, and got that top 15, got that top 10 that I was looking for. Maybe even won once or twice. I can't remember exactly all of them. But here are a couple of guys that missed the cut only due to their putting. If you look statistically at their numbers, they had plenty of good enough numbers to get inside the cut line. All these guys had to do was match the field in their putting. So not even gain strokes putting, right? Just match the field in their putting. So Corey Connors leads that list, no surprise. Ryan Brehm, Jason Duffner, DJ Trahan, Boo Weekley, as I said, Cameron Smith. He also lost strokes off the tee, but if he just matched the field in putting, he would have been able to possibly overcome that. And then the last one is Patton Kizzire, who is statistically a pretty good putter. Also has had some early season success. Obviously, a couple of years ago, winning 2 in a row. So that's something to watch out for. And then, of course, there's always the flip side of things, right? The golfers that putted incredibly terrible everywhere else, which, sometimes that could be a sign of, all right, they just need one thing to click and they got their putter down and they play well. And that's John Senning. He gained 4.4 strokes putting in 2 rounds. Brendan DeJong gained 4.2 in 2 rounds. While Ted Potter takes the cake, he gained over 5 strokes putting and didn't even finish his second round. So interesting there. He was kind of close to the cut line and didn't want to come back the next day. And I think it was at +1 or something, maybe a little worse. So something to watch out for there. Obviously, the wizard Ted Potter, if he gets hot with the putter, he can light it up in a hurry. So I think that's a pretty good synopsis about last week there. That's what I'm attempting to do. I'm attempting to give people a quick summary of what happened. Obviously, the Sebastian Munoz win and the Sungjae Im lost in the playoff. Those are the two of notes. And then take of course, the not your average missed cuts for guys that we could look for weeks. And of course, Dylan Fratelli and such of guys that could be in form. So hopefully that gives you a good, clear indication of what happened in the week that you might have missed. And now we can transition into the Safeway Open. The Safeway Open has been now basic. Well, it's not anymore. It was the first event of the PGA Tour calendar year since they got rid of what they call the fall swing season. It's still the fall swing season, but it's actually now considered part of the PGA Tour season. You get FedEx Cup points for every start and such. So they head down. They had out west to Napa, California, where was the Brendan Steele Open instead of the Safeway Open. It was the Brendan Steele Open for 2 straight years there, winning back-to-back in 2017 and 2018. Before last year, Kevin Tway just played incredibly well, and then ended up winning in the playoff, of course, as well. And Kevin's a guy, obviously, that we know for his driving distance, but when you go and dive into his stats a little bit from last year, and I'll mention this, it's played at the Silverado Resort and Spa, the Safeway Open, on the North Course there, par 72, measuring 7,200 yards. So rather short for a 7,200-yarder. Where I was going with the Kevin Tway thing is he had, on average, his cumulative approach distances on the first 8 holes, 6 of the 8 were under 100 yards. So that's very important to know, because if a guy is typically a longer driver of the ball, and Tway, he finished 25th, I believe, or inside the top 25 in driving last year. If you get a guy that's putting the ball in the fairway, especially on these first 8 holes, they could have 6 wedge opportunities. And you got guys like Hideki Matsuyama and Justin Thomas in the field here this week that are fantastic with their wedges. They could get hot in a hurry. You could see some very, very low scores here. So the average winning score, speaking of that, is -16. I would expect that, as we've seen from scores this year, to be a little bit lower. I've seen scores get to -18. Never gotten to -20 here since it's become that full tournament of the FedEx. It's gotten to 18 a couple of times. I could see it getting to 20 this year if the weather was cooperative. Sorry there. I'm gonna take that a little sip. So my first time doing something solo, so it's a little interesting to try and talk for the entire time. So, anyways, interesting to note about the scoring on this course: 16, 17, and 18, the finishing 3 holes, count for almost 30% of the total DraftKings scoring for the week. So if your guy is, let's say, 1 or 2 away from the cut, coming down on 16, 17, 18, I'd go out and say that he's got a chance to make the cut for sure. Likely you're not going to have too much movement to go outside the cut because it's 2 par 5s sandwiched by a short par 4. So probably not a guy's moving outside, but cut lines could be moving. Therefore, like, if we get the T65 and there's a couple of guys left to play 16, 17, and 18 that are within 2, you could see someone go on a birdie streak and move that cut line. So certainly something to note. Of course, plenty of eagles. 36 in total were made last year. So I expect plenty of that to happen. We mentioned Kevin Tway winning last year, Brendan Steele winning the 2 previous years. So both guys that drive the ball in the top 50. Drive the ball in the top 50 in driving distance. You can even throw in Emiliano Grillo as well. Also, guys that are very good tee to green, that are more probably statistically not great putters, but obviously all four of them were able to get hot enough with their putters to win the tournament. So I wouldn't necessarily say that you have to be a great putter, because Emiliano Grillo, we know, is one of the worst putters, as we just mentioned. So I don't think it's imperative this week as it is in other weeks. I think it's more of a blend, and certainly have to be good with your wedges. So, as I just mentioned, a couple of guys in the field, we're going to talk about the headliners in the field, and because this is our Sunday night one, it's not our Monday night. We don't have prices yet. We don't have odds yet. We don't have even the full field really. We're just going to talk about the guys that at least we see right now that are scheduled to be in the field this week, and it's going to start off with Justin Thomas and Patrick Cantlay. They headline the field. Patrick Cantlay did play here last year. He decided to come and start his season. Not surprising, I've heard through all the people that I've tried to talk to that might know Patrick, or that I've had communication with, say he likes wine. So maybe not a surprise to see him out here in Napa. Justin Thomas has also been vocal about his wine liking. Which brings me to my next point. Why isn't his best buddy Jordan Spieth here? Unless I just totally missed him. I don't think I saw Jordan Spieth on the roster. So they headline it. They're joined by a couple of other people. So our best field yet for for this year that we've seen, at least in the fall swing. This is now our third event covering, and we've got three guys in the top 10 in the world playing here. Francesco Molinari is in Europe, where he could not defend his title. He's ninth in the world, and then followed up by Bryson DeChambeau and Adam Scott in the top 20 in the world that are here to compete this week. So a very good field for a fall circuit event. At least I'm not going to say it's like a really strong, but for a fall swing event, this is a very good showing. Hopefully, DraftKings will come out and give us some pretty good prize pool. I don't see anything posted quite yet, which probably means to me we're going to get a 50,000 up top, very similar to what we had last week with the Sanderson Farm. Sorry, slid my mind for a second. Anyways, so we got over Justin Thomas, Patrick Cantlay. So now what we're going to do is, this is something that I mentioned at the top that I'm going to try and bring in this year. I think it's an interesting element. I think it'll at least give you guys a point of reference to what you can expect to see going forward this week. So, as I mentioned, Justin Thomas, number 5 in the world, leads off. I expect him to touch about 11.8K. I don't think DraftKings in a field like this is going to throw him out at 12,000 this week. So that's going to probably put somebody like Patrick Cantlay at 11.2K. I don't think they're going to price him that close to JT. They're going to have that separation. I could even see them going down to 11 on Cantlay and pricing JT at 11.8 and putting that premium on going to get him. I think that they price Matsuyama next, actually. I think even though he's ranked 27th in the world, I think they're going to definitely price him above Leishman. And historically, they have been pricing him above Scott recently. So I think he goes above there. And Bryson DeChambeau, coming off the missed cut, I think he goes down all the way around 10.4K. I got Matsuyama coming in at 10.6K. I got Adam Scott rounding out that top 5 in golfers above 10K at that mark at 10,000. So I think you'll expect to see golfers like him probably priced there next. Abraham Answer, Brent Snedeker, you'll see Byung Hyun in this next 9K range. So we'll see how I did with these guesses on our Monday night podcast, tomorrow night podcast, calling it Hitting 3 Off the Tee. So what I'm going to do each week, also, the last thing I'm going to do, as I've covered the field, I've given you my prices, I'm going to give you my top 3 statistics that I'm looking at this week. And then tomorrow on my next show, or my episode 2 or part 2 of the Safeway Open podcast series, I'm going to give you the golfers that I'm focused on for these 3. So the top 5 from each. If there's any crossover, I'll just mention them. So this week, I've mentioned a couple times, inside of 125. If you drive the ball far, when I say far, top 25 on tour, even top 40 in tour, we're really only talking about a 5 yard difference from, Kevin Clay at 25 to, the guy that's ranked 200. I'm sorry, the guy that's ranked in the 50th to 60th range. So with that being said, I'm okay with going to up to 60th and driving distance. So I'm looking at driving distance plus proximity from under 125 yards. Driving distance, mentioned that one as well to couple with that. Now it's really only to couple with it. I don't just want to throw out there Ryan Brem, who can't hit a green to save his life right now. And then when he gets on there, now he has his greens and regulations. Okay, it's actually his putting, but you get the hopefully you get the point that I'm trying to make in this regard. Anyways, so those are the two, and the third one that I'm looking at this week is going to be this third one was a little more difficult for me, and it's going to be the good drive percentage. It's not the best statistic. I guess if I was going to go to a more a strokes gained statistic, since I haven't mentioned that one yet, I've just done driving distance and proximity from 125 yards. It would be approaches if I had to lean one with off the tee or approaches. I guess if I had to pick one of the two this week, it would just be on the approaches. We've seen guys, like Brendan Steele a couple of years ago, gain only about four tenths of a stroke off the tee per round, which is 1.6 total. So that's not that much. So those are the three stats for the players that I'll be focused on and might have performed well in these categories last week. Or on the Corn Ferry Tour last year, or on the PGA Tour last year. You're going to have to come back tomorrow night or tomorrow morning, depending on when you listen to this, to get those. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed the first episode of the Opening Tee podcast. And hopefully we'll be able to get some of you guys on here and have some good guests in the industry. So hopefully you like it, and we will certainly make it better as time marches on. But this is about 23 minutes long, which is my favorite kind of number. So hitting where I wanted to in that 20 to 30 minute range, just giving you a quick preview of the week to come and what you can expect. If you want to hear more on this podcast, if it's not enough for you, let me know. I will add it in. But I feel pretty confident and good about this one for at least for now, and hope you guys enjoy it. Cheers.